Hey, welcome to Sarfraz Ahmed, one of my favorite poets. And we are going to talk about his new book, Stab the Pomegranate. There we go.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm very good. Very good.
Is it
Very good.
starting to feel like winter where you are?
It's becoming winter because in England there is no real summer. I think we get about 2 weeks of sunshine and not too hot. And now it's getting very cold. You've got to put the heating back on and get the blankets out. So we're used to it. We're used to it. We can sit at home and write poetry and
Mm.
amuse ourselves in different ways.
Yes. Well, you have been one busy man because this book, Stab the Pomegranate, is huge. It's huge. I was looking at your Amazon page and I was reading the back cover on there, and I encourage people to look at that information on Amazon. Um, and wow, wow. Tell me about this book. It's in a special kind of a arrangement. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so for those of you that haven't heard of me or read any of my poetry, which if you're not on social media, then you may have missed me. But I've been writing for a long time now, probably about 18, 19 years. So I've been writing for a long time, but I only got published in my own kind of collection as a book was last year in lockdown. I think a lot of poets did that,
Mhm.
and and in that short space of time, this has become my fourth book that I've released as well. And this is a very special book because, Lisa, as you mentioned, this Stab the Pomegranate Granite is a book in two halves. So it's in two halves. So it's got two parts to it. The old poems, the best of the old poems that I've been writing for about 18 years, and the new stuff that has been done really, really well on social media, and also has done wonderful things with collaborations as well. And the Stab the Pomegranate has actually has caused a stir. I think it did. I think it released about August about the 20th. That's when he had a release date, and it was released then. And we did a live launch on Facebook, and recently I did one on Instagram as well. But prior to that, there was a lot of teasers going out, like for example,
Yes.
who stabbed? Yeah, and who stabbed the pomegranate? And
Mhm.
I had some lots of video clips going on, like a film clip.
Yes.
So it got to a momentum where everybody was thinking, "What on earth is this book all about?"
I thought it was
But
a murder mystery there for a while.
yeah, there was a little a poster going around,
Mhm.
which did the rounds, which was actually saying, "Who stabbed the pomegranate? All will be revealed this summer." So so that is basically that side of it, and that is very, 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 very important because that actually came out and that actually caused a lot of stir
Mhm.
and it got really people into that particular side of things and into uh, understanding and finding out what the book was all about.
Mhm. So no murders.
No murders, no murders, and so the teasers came out, and slowly I actually released a few of the because I don't like to release a lot of the poems because that's kind of people don't buy the book then if there's
Right.
too much out there. So
If you
so
give it
in
all
fact, I
away.
don't think there's hardly anything really out there now. But I did release one or two verses. I like to release some verses of the
Mhm.
poems and. Um, a lot of teasers are out there. A lot of marketing stuff was out there as well. A lot of information was out there. But to be
Yeah.
honest, at the end of the day, it's going to be the poems that actually people want to have the collection because they love the poetry and they enjoy poetry and they enjoy this type of work as well. Because what I have got is a book in two halves, but the first half has got the best of the old poems in there.
Mhm.
So the old poems are the poems that I've been writing for 18 years. Stab the Pomegranate was a poem I wrote in 2008, I believe, first of all. It got into it was actually in a magazine for a long time and with a picture of me and so on because it actually people find it fantastic at that time. It was, and I wasn't actually known at all. You know, there was no Sarfraz Ahmed out there, and there was none of that. I was writing in secret, to be honest. So I was, and then I would release something out. I would apply for competitions. That was a big thing, competitions, and but this got picked up from a competition, and it was in a magazine, and I always felt, quite rightly so, that if I did another book, it has to have Stab the Pomegranate in there, because I kept it hidden for a long time.
Well, not only did you hide it, now you brought it way out in the open in this wonderful
Yes.
book.
Now Stab the Pomegranate is out there, and people are so, and I get messages on a daily basis about the book, and they tell me how much they are enjoying it, and I love that, because somebody was asking me, because another poet was asking me about this, says, oh, you know about money, and I said, well, you know, as poets, we write for different reasons, and I write for people to read my work and get something from it. That is simple as that. You know, it's not like it's you know, I love doing it and I really enjoy it. It is passion of poetry, you know, like, you know, but it is passion, isn't it, Lisa? That's what we
It
do it
is.
for. We
It
do
is a
it for the
passion.
passion. We do it for the love of the spoken word
Yeah.
and the written word. And but yeah, Stab the Pomegranate is a fantastic poem. It's the first poem of the book. The book has got 112 poems in there. As I said, it's got the old poems, and then it's got the new poems as well, which I will read as well. I'm going to read Stab the Pomegranate, of course.
Of course.
I can't tease your audience without actually reading some of it as well.
How about you do that for us? Would you
Yeah,
like
let's
to go
go for
ahead
it.
and
Let's
break
read.
into one?
Okay, so let's read, because I'm going to start off with, I usually end with Stab the Pomegranate, but I'm going to read it because it is because it naturally flows and is what we're talking about. And let's see what the book is all about. Stab the Pomegranate. She stabbed the pomegranate right through the heart, cut it to pieces, tore it apart, sliced and diced it, drew out its life. She went in with a scalpel, then cut it like a knife. Soon after, blood filled her beautiful hands as she bled dry its juicy glands. She carried on for a long time. I don't think she quite knew that she committed the worst possible crime that anyone could ever commit, for there is a well thought out method, a perfect technique to cut open a pomegranate, and this wasn't it. And there she stood right in front of me with the pomegranate in her hands. She held it high so I could see that she wasn't the one for me. I knew there and then that it was over. The night I witnessed the stabbing of the pomegranate, the night she cut open my heart and set me free.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. So
It is
who stabbed the
literally heart
pomegranate?
rendering.
It was the person I loved. She stabbed the pomegranate, and I witnessed it as the blood kind of filled her hands, and I witnessed the hold of it. So it's actually a very, very sad poem, to be honest. It was something that I obviously I had gone through. But the pomegranate actually, Stab the Pomegranate actually came about when I actually heard, it was a radio show that I listened to, and it's all about how to cut. There's a perfect technique of cutting a pomegranate, and so there was all this going on. I thought, what on earth is this all about? I want to stab the pomegranate, and so the title came from there. But the rest of it, when you look at pomegranate, it is your heart. So basically, it's a metaphor for your heart. So you're stabbing your heart. So that's kind of where that's coming from. But I think a lot of people can actually relate to it, because I think a lot of people have had their hearts broken at some time, and certainly we poets, we live on that. We thrive on it. We write about it, and we rewrite about it. So Stab the Pomegranate, the book, came out, as I said, in August the 20th. It's got a collection of my old poems, and it's got some of my new ones in there as well. And I know you've got the book as well now, Lisa.
Yes, I do. I started reading it, and I am going to listen to it on my Kindle, and so that I like my books to be read to me.
Yes, I like that.
And
I
so,
like that.
but I'm not a big Audible person. I rather listen to it with my own little
Excellent.
Kindle voice. But yes, I actually at nighttime listen to poetry when I'm relaxing. You know, I put my earbuds in and I just listen. And it's like your book will probably put me to sleep in a good way. I will play it over and over again until I hear the whole thing. so it may get listened
Wow.
to several times. So
Thank you so
um,
much.
I will average my average reading of a poetry book is at least 3 times, to really get the gist of it before I review it. And
Yeah.
yeah, but
That's like
now
me
you,
as well. I mean, I bought. I actually buy more poetry books than I've ever done, to be
mhm,
honest. Because there's two
yeah,
things. One is because I obviously love it. I love writing, and I
mhm,
love getting inspired by um, writers. And the other part of it is supporting of
mhm,
my colleagues and the other
mhm,
poets that are there. I call it supporting them because this
yeah,
is their work, and I like to support them. So I like to buy the book, but it's the shelves are getting pretty full.
yes,
With
mine
I,
too, mine
yeah,
too,
so
yes,
me and myself and Pratipa, who who's another
mhm,
poet friend of mine of ours, we were talking about the same thing. Our books are getting very very full. We need to be more
yes,
selective of who we buy because
yes,
it's one of those things, isn't it?
yes. Now, I noticed that on Passion Poetry Group that you were an admin and what you're an editor now with the
Yeah, let me.
anthology coming up. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a lot. So, I mean, obviously, I've got my own poetry collection, obviously, that I write.
Mhm,
And I will read some more of the book as well. But
mhm.
I'm actually I'm actually an administrator. I was a moderator. I'm an administrator of the Passion of Poetry
Mhm.
Facebook site, the group that we have a record amount of members now on it,
Yeah, a lot.
um, a lot now, and
Thousands.
so I'm really proud of that actually. So I'm
Mhm,
proud of that. And we're actually getting our first anthology together,
mhm,
putting it together. I am the editor, so I've taken that role on. Probably the second time, because the first time I did real editing was on my second book with Annette Tarpley, The Two Hearts. I
mhm.
did a lot of I took a huge amount of chunk of editing on there.
Right.
But the Passion of Poetry, a Facebook site, has changed and transformed many lives, to be honest.
Mhm.
And it's actually put us all together, all people that love poetry, and also lots of people that actually get on well together. We get on
Yes.
really, really well. We have a
Mhm.
good supportive network. We support each
Yeah.
other's work, each other's poems, and we have. I mean, the way that administration works, about almost 18 or 19 moderators. So we have a huge, a huge group that
It
Annette
is
Tarpley has
huge.
had
Yeah.
put together. But there's it's split. So I'm doing the editing, more of the anthology, that kind of role. And then there's other people like Dennis and Hector and Jill Tate who've taken on things like the competitions that are
Mhm.
there all the time. There's a huge amount of competitions there, and I think people love that. People
Yeah.
love, yeah, they
Yeah.
love the
I've
competition.
entered a few. Yeah.
Yeah, so they
Yes.
just love that. And so the book, the Passion of Poetry anthology, should be out. Um, I'm going to say end of October, November. I,
Wonderful.
I have it at the moment, so the manuscript is with me. I'm still waiting for a couple of things, and then we're gonna put some fantastic artwork that people have donated, and kind of. I think that was a competition as well to put some artwork
Mhm.
into it. So it is. These are all members' artwork and people that are just artists and creative people,
Mhm.
and we're gonna have put that in there. But the pages are about 300. Yeah, 300-page
Wow.
anthology.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Wow.
It's one of the biggest. I mean, I thought Two Hearts was quite big, but that's not really that big in comparison, to be honest. It was only myself and Annette, and it's 200, just over 200 pages in that. This has
Mhm.
gone 100 pages over on that.
Yeah, I've got yours in Annette's book too, Two Hearts.
Yeah, I mean that obviously Two Hearts is there.
Mhm.
As well. So yeah, so that's what I'm working on as well. I'm also working on re-releasing or doing a second edition of my first book, which is there, the 84 pins. So
Love
that's going to
that
have
book. Mhm.
yeah. Well, this one you're going to love what I'm going to do with it. It's going to be rebranded, so it's going to have a new cover, going to have a new manuscript. So I'm not going to change the poems. It's just going to be very polished looking as well, and
Okay.
yeah, there is talk of getting it as a hard copy as well. So I'd love to get that
Yeah.
as a
Sweet.
hard copy if anybody wants it. And this book, really, the 84 Pins, was the first book that I had. I was lucky enough to get published because it is very hard
Mhm.
to get published as poets. But I was very fortunate last February before
Mhm.
lockdown, and then in lockdown I worked on it. not knowing how to put a book together, to be honest. That was all kind of new to us. I know how to write poetry, that's just easy for me. It all comes
Right.
naturally. But what the difference is between my first book, this one, and even the subsequent books is the poetry in this book was written all together. It was written as one whole, so I didn't change it. I didn't take one out and move them around, which subsequently I've done now, because I feel that, as you know, not everything is publishable or wants to be, you know, so some things are not quite ready there or don't fit in with the theme of the book and so on. But 84 Pins is very different because it was written in about 6 months, over a period of time, over the summer, where I had those lots of weddings going on. I was traveling a lot, and you can see it in the book, but one poem follows the other exactly how I wrote it. And that's the difference between the first book and the subsequent book.
Okay.
Stab the Pomegranate is so different because I handpicked poems from 18 years or something like that for the first bit. This is now. No, that was then. And the second part, this is now, is more of my recent stuff and collaborations as well.
Yeah,
So
you've become quite the collaborator. I
yeah,
see
I love
about
it.
every other day you have another poem that I saw one with you and Zan today. And I see
Yeah.
in
Today I
Pratiba.
am so honoured to be writing with Zan Johns, who I've got her book actually.
Yeah, me
I've got
too.
her. Yeah, she's another one that I had to get her book because I'm so inspired by her. She's very inspirational. I think you get to a
Yes.
point as a poet that you take someone like Zan and her poetry to kind of wake you up a bit. And I really enjoyed doing a collaboration with her.
Yeah.
So I'm really pleased. Yeah, it's called Like a Child,
Yeah,
and it's
that
a
was very
collaboration.
good. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
loved
I
it.
want to write more with Zan, and Zan wants to write more with me. I think we're both kind of at the same point, and I really, really, really admire her. I think she's fantastic.
Yes.
I've been writing with everyone, so I've been writing with Dennis Brown, Annette Tarpley, of course, Timothy DeVito, who I really, really admire. I want to write with obviously Pratiba, of course, can't forget Pratiba, and Jack Tomlinson, who's my. If we were Lennon McCartney, we would be the Lennon McCartney of poetry. We are the collaborators, king collaborators. And Jack actually did the foreword. Jack is a poet from the UK. He's written 2 books, and he's actually become quite a good friend of mine. So Jack did the foreword. He wrote the foreword, and subsequently some of his poems are in there. 3 poems of his collaborations are in there as well. But you can't. I find it, and also. I find, I don't know with you, but when I collaborate with a poet, sometimes it's difficult. We're all fighting for space. We're all fighting to be dominant, you know, in that. So you need, it's a technique to collaborate, but I love collaborating. I just love it. I could do a whole book of collaborations.
Well, I see you really scored too, the back cover blurb by Jill Sharon Kimmelman. I mean,
Yes,
she
yes.
she takes this very, very seriously.
She is the queen of
She
writing back
is.
covers. I mean, if there was an award for writing, we call it the back blurb, don't we? The back end. But she writes so beautifully. I mean, she wrote for Two Hearts, and I asked her to write Stab the Pomegranate. I had to wait for her for when she was ready, because she is an artist. She won't write it overnight. It's a piece of art. And she will not put her name to anything that is not up to a standard. But I
Yes.
love the way that she writes it. I love the way that her kind of vocabulary is so rich, and it's got so many different layers in there as well. And I think because her background is catering, is food. I like the way. I mean, I'm going to read it out to you.
Okay.
Just a little segment from the back. There is a time-tested, proven method of opening a pomegranate, just as there are rules dated back thousands of years for crafting a poem. Yes, they exist, but must we as poets or even foodies follow them? No. For Sarfraz, a gentleman and a scholar, the answer is clear, resounding no. And then she starts talking about obviously into the other books, you know, that I've got into, but the back is I am really, really pleased of, and I wanted to get certain people involved, to be honest. And you know, I knew at that time I was writing a lot with Jack. I wanted to, you know, so I asked Jack to write the. He was over the moon for the foreword.
Mm-hmm.
I had we had Pratipa involved as well. She was involved doing some of the initial copywriting, proofing of the book. But then she also did. We did some collaborations together, which we're really really pleased of.
Well, that's a real team effort there.
She's, yeah, I call it the team, you know. So if I was to write again,
A-team.
I'm me as the editor. So you know, I never put my own name down as the editor, but I obviously edited my own book. That wasn't done by anyone else. And I've subsequently been helping Dennis with his book as well. And I've been asked to help with other poets to edit their book, kind of get the manuscript ready. That's where it is, to get it ready.
Yeah, Dennis has got one coming out in not too much more time, doesn't he? And
Dennis is very close. He's, I mean, to be honest, his manuscript is ready to be proofed. I mean, that's where it is, and I think then it will go to the publisher, and then the publisher and the poet can work together to come up with the final version as well. But he's very very close. I do. I mean, another one that's actually I think it's probably we're probably in fashion now to include a lot of pictures and visuals, and Dennis definitely does that. He's got lots of visuals, and he writes quotes as well. So he's multi-talented, and he's got some of his artwork in there. So we really, really do enjoy that.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about another one of your poems?
Yeah, let's go for a couple more. I'm going to read out 2 poems, one after the other. One is called Cactus, and the other one is God's Teardrop Exploded. So Cactus is when you're a writer, you don't know. You know, you don't know where it's going to take you. You don't know if you're going to get published. You don't know if anyone's going to like it. You write it for yourself. But when I was writing at the beginning, there were very much long poems, and there were long kind of rants, I call them, you know. And the breakaway poem for me was this poem called Cactus, which is, I mean, to be honest, it's probably got about 20 words in it, if that. It's a very small poem, and it's a real breakaway from what I was doing at the time. Written huge long time ago, more than I care to say, but I'm going to read Cactus, followed by God's Teardrop Exploded. Cactus. Dried up burning, a sweating heart yearning, sullen eyes look down and cry, fall on the ground, so ragged and dry, gaze at once was a youthful body that's now sick and tired of love, now left parched and burning in the sun. A lifetime is left to think of what I have become. Cactus.
I like that.
Okay. And let's go for God's Teardrop Exploded. Now, God's Teardrop Exploded was actually in a collection to do with the tsunami in 2004. So it's probably the first time I actually got my poem in an anthology. And I was so pleased. I was so overwhelmed, but they chose God's Teardrop Exploded about the tsunami that happened in that year. Did you know that time stood still at that precise moment, that exact second when the earth opened its mouth and roared, and the oceans wept, such deadly tears it poured, as the unbeknowing world slept? How many did one tear kill in that precise moment, the exact second where God's teardrop exploded and time stood still? Yep. So that's there are 2 of the older ones. I'm going to read out something from the second part of the book, which is called This Is Now. And this has got, I didn't want too much artwork. I think it didn't need it. It's got, it's got the chapters in there, which are obviously quite split. There you go. I just want to show you a picture of, of the pomegranate. In color.
Who's the artist? Who is the artist?
The art, my sister actually did the cover. The artwork, luckily I have found some royalty free pics. I was lucky to have, but there aren't that many. Sometimes when you do that, you don't actually find any good, there aren't any appropriate ones maybe.
Right.
So I'm going to read something from the latest collection, which is called Void. My search for nirvana ended at the bottom of a bottle in a bid to pollute myself, to get rid of the things that swelled inside of me. Day in, day out, they swirled around my head. You took what you wanted, left me for dead. Not moving left, not moving right. You took everything, my will to fight. Left me in this void, in this place to dwell, locked in between heaven and hell, in this abyss of time, left me searching for nirvana at the end of two white lines.
Mm.
So that is the end of a relationship, a breakdown, where someone is going into some sort of different kinds of addiction, so drinking a huge amount, and then now turning himself to drugs and trying to find himself at the end of two white lines. So it's quite a powerful, heavy poem, actually, because, I mean, I know I do write about love. I do write about love. Not a huge, well, I think well, yes, I do write about love. But I do like to also write about other aspects of love as well, which is the end of love, which is Stab the Pomegranate is the end of love. Void is the end of love. So I like to tackle all subject areas as well. And I think also with here, in Stab the Pomegranate, you see different kinds of Sarfraz as well, because I write about different kinds of things that are outside my comfort zone. And I love writing about different worlds. And I actually get a lot of people actually recently told me who bought the book that they like the drag, which is about the drag artist. So I'm going to read out the drag.
Okay.
And it's called the drag edit. Now, the reason, and people ask me, why is it called the drag edit? Why is there an edit in there? Well, if you see some of my poems that have edit on there, you'll notice that they have been edited from a larger poems. So this was a very big poem, but through editing, it became this. It's called the drag. There was a Cuban cigar hanging from her lips, nail varnish still present on her fingertips. She would tease the audience with this cigar, arouse them from submission from afar. The French accordion lingers in the background, making a seductive kind of sound. Like mellow jazz after midnight, the atmosphere is so thick, it somehow feels right. Watch the moths go near the flame. The moths will never feel quite the same. He is waiting for his next lover to come, frightened of what he has become, a freak of nature, so alluring, so tempting, the drag.
Love it. Love that.
Drag. Yeah. So I love that duality, you know, of the male, the female, and I love being outside my comfort zone. I think it's quite nice when you collaborate with another poet. They actually push you to different areas or different things that you might not even thought about. So when I'm collaborating with a poet, we sometimes use picture prompts or we just talk about certain things, and they want to write certain. They have something burning inside of them that they want to talk about, and I will follow their lead as a poet and go that way. So this is called the drag, from obviously Stab the Pomegranate as well. And I'm going to read you a love poem.
Okay.
It was about time for a bit of love after all that heavy poem. So as I mentioned, the book is out there. It's got 112 or something, 113 poems. So it's a huge amount. I didn't want to you know how it is. You don't want to put too much in there. You want to keep it so someone is comfortable with it and enjoys it. This is called Like Silhouettes in the Moonlight. I want to dance with you like silhouettes in the moonlight. I want to look in your eyes. I want to hold you tight. As the music surrounds us, takes us to another place where all I can see is the beauty of your face. With just one look, you take me from far from the world that I once knew, where all I can see is you, smiling down at me, eyes wide as the sun. For every time I look at you, you make the bad things become undone. Now there is no need to run, there is no need to hide, for I have the world, for I have you by my side. Every time you look at me, something deep down of me ignites. It is like a feeling that I don't want to fight, for I want to dance with you forever like silhouettes in the moonlight.
Lovely, lovely. Well,
Like silhouettes.
Sarfraz, I want to thank you so much for coming on here today.
It's a pleasure, Lisa. It's a pleasure.
I look forward
Thank you
to
for...
when the anthology comes out too with Passion. I have to have everybody come on here and do a reading.
I think we are going to, I mean, with the Passion of Poetry anthology, I think with Annette, what we are going to do is going to be it won't be just one person, obviously. It will be a
whole bunch.
I think we're going to make it more like an open mic reading of the poets reading their poetry, because with the Passion of Poetry, you've got the administrators who've got the poems in there. They're all established poets, and you know they've got their stuff in there. But we've got the members of the Passion of Poetry, who've some of them have never ever been published ever, and so they are in a position to be in part of this global anthology, which is, you know, and I said to Annette, I said, you know, you've done something fantastic here with this anthology. You've captured a moment in time, you know, of all these poets, yourself, Lisa included, and myself, and all these other wonderful modern day poets that are alive and writing at the same time. And I think globally, Annette has captured that. So she's done it. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to actually holding it in my hands. It's one of those books that it's a who's who of poets. You name a poet and they're in there. Yeah, it's quite exciting. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Sarfraz. Hold your book up for one more time.
Yes, of course. There, look.
Stab the Pomegrante, Collected Poetry by Sarfraz Ahmed. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Lisa.
Have a good night.
Thank you for enjoying the poetry. Bye-bye.
Thank you.